My daughter looked up at me with a red mark still fading on her cheek, and she asked me a question no 5-year-old should ever have to ask her mother. She asked me, "Mommy, why did that lady hate me?" I didn't have an answer for her. Not then. Because the man standing behind that woman, the man who was supposed to protect her more than anyone else in this world, hadn't said a single word while it happened. He just watched. My name is Claire, and this is the story of the day I stopped being the woman who forgives everything and became the woman who fights back. I need to take you back a little, so you understand how we got to that parking lot, to that moment, to those 10 slaps that changed everything. I met my husband, Daniel, 8 years ago. I was 24, working the front desk at a dental office in Ohio, and he came in every 6 months like clockwork, always polite, always remembering my name. He asked me out after his 3rd visit. I said yes because he made me laugh, and because he looked at me like I was something worth looking at. That's rare. You don't realize how rare it is until you don't have it anymore. We got married 2 years later. Small wedding, nothing fancy, just family and a few close friends under string lights in my aunt's backyard. I remember standing there thinking, this is it. This is my person. I remember believing that with my whole chest. Our daughter, Lily, was born 3 years into the marriage. She had Daniel's eyes, this deep brown that crinkled when she smiled, and she had my stubbornness, which honestly terrified me a little. She is the best thing I have ever done with my life. Everything else, every job, every accomplishment, it all shrinks next to her. For a while, things were good. Not perfect, no marriage is, but good. Daniel worked in sales for a logistics company, traveled sometimes, came home tired but present. He read Lily bedtime stories in silly voices. He held my hand during movies. I used to tell my sister that I got lucky, that I found one of the good ones. I didn't know that somewhere around Lily's 3rd birthday, something in him had started to shift. Quietly. The way rot starts on the inside of a fruit that still looks fine on the outside. It started with small things. Longer hours at work. A phone he suddenly angled away from me at dinner. Text messages that made him smile in a way he never used to smile at his phone before. I noticed. Of course I noticed. But I did what a lot of women do when they're scared of the answer. I told myself I was imagining it. I told myself I was tired, paranoid, insecure. I gave him the benefit of the doubt so many times that I lost count. Her name was Renata. I found that out much later. She worked at his company in a different department, younger than me by maybe 6 years, the kind of beautiful that makes you feel invisible standing next to her. I didn't know her name for a long time. For a long time, she was just a shadow at the edge of my marriage, something I could feel but couldn't quite touch, couldn't quite prove. There's a particular kind of exhaustion that comes from sensing something is wrong and having no evidence. It eats at you slowly. You start doubting your own instincts, the very thing that's supposed to protect you. I remember lying awake at 2 in the morning, staring at the ceiling, running through conversations in my head, searching for clues in the way he'd said goodnight, the way he hadn't quite looked at me during dinner. I confronted him once, maybe 8 months before everything fell apart. I asked him straight out, "Are you seeing someone?" He looked at me like I'd slapped him. He said, "Claire, how could you even ask me that? I come home every night. I'm here, I'm present. What more do you want from me?" And I believed him. Or maybe I just wanted to believe him so badly that I convinced myself the wanting was the same thing as the truth. Looking back now, I understand something I didn't understand then. A man can be present in the house and completely absent from the marriage. He can tuck his daughter in at 8 and be texting another woman by 8:15. Presence isn't the same as faithfulness. I learned that the hard way, the way you learn most important things. The day everything broke open started like any other Saturday. Lily had a birthday party to go to, one of her preschool friends, a girl named Emma who lived across town. Daniel offered to take her. He said he wanted some one-on-one time with his daughter, said I deserved a few hours to myself, maybe get my nails done, relax. And I remember feeling grateful. I remember thinking, look at him, being such a good father, giving me a break. I had no idea what I was actually giving him a break to do. The party was at a community center with a small parking lot out front. I know this because I got the call 2 hours later, and I drove there so fast I don't even remember most of the drive. My hands were shaking on the wheel. My whole body was shaking. The call was from another mother at the party, a woman named Patricia who I barely knew, but whose voice on the phone I will never forget as long as I live. She was crying. She said, "Claire, you need to come right now. Something happened to Lily." When I pulled into that parking lot, the first thing I saw was a small crowd of parents standing near the entrance, all of them looking toward the same spot, all of them with their phones out or their hands over their mouths. And in the middle of it, I saw my daughter. She was sitting on the curb, knees pulled up to her chest, her small shoulders shaking. Patricia was crouched beside her, one arm around her, trying to comfort her. And Lily's cheek, my baby's cheek, was red. Not bruised, not injured in a way that would need a hospital, but red and swollen just enough that I knew immediately that someone had hit my daughter. Hit her hard, more than once. I don't remember getting out of the car. I remember being on my knees on that pavement, pulling Lily into my arms, and she was sobbing into my shoulder, this small broken sound that I feel in my chest even now, months later, whenever I think about it too long. "Mommy," she kept saying, "Mommy, I'm sorry, I'm sorry." She was apologizing. My 5-year-old daughter was apologizing to me, as if any of this could possibly be her fault. I looked up, searching for Daniel, expecting him to be somewhere nearby, panicked, furious, doing something. And that's when I saw him, standing about 15 feet away, near a silver sedan I didn't recognize. And beside him was a woman. Tall, dark hair pulled into a sleek ponytail, wearing sunglasses despite the overcast sky, like she was trying to hide something, or maybe just trying to seem like she belonged somewhere she absolutely did not belong. She wasn't crying. She wasn't upset. She was standing there with her arms crossed, her jaw tight, looking at my daughter, still trembling in my arms with something close to irritation. Like Lily was an inconvenience. Like a 5-year-old child had somehow personally offended her. And Daniel, my husband, he was just standing there, not comforting his daughter, not confronting this woman. Just standing there beside her, silent, his hands shoved in his pockets, staring at the ground like a man waiting for a bus. Patricia, still crouched beside us, was the one who finally spoke, her voice shaking with barely contained fury. "Claire, that woman hit Lily, right here in front of everyone. She hit her, I counted, God help me, I counted 10 times before Marcus pulled her back. And she pointed at Daniel without even looking at him like she couldn't stand to, he just stood there. He didn't stop her. He didn't do anything." I felt something crack open in my chest. Not sadness. Not yet. Something colder than that. Something I didn't have a name for at the time, but I understand now. It was the sound of 8 years of trust shattering all at once, in a parking lot, in front of strangers, with my daughter's tears soaking through my shirt. I stood up. I remember my legs feeling unsteady, like the ground itself had tilted. I remember setting Lily gently into Patricia's arms and telling her, in a voice that didn't even sound like mine, "Can you hold her for me for 1 second, please?" And then I walked toward my husband, toward the woman standing beside him, toward the 2 people who were about to learn that the quiet, forgiving woman they thought they knew had just run out of quiet, had just run out of forgiveness, completely and forever. Daniel finally looked up as I approached, and for 1 second, just one, I saw something flicker across his face. Fear, maybe, or guilt, or the dawning realization that whatever he thought this day was going to be, it wasn't going to be that anymore. The woman beside him, the one whose name I still didn't know, lowered her sunglasses just slightly, looking at me the way you'd look at something unimportant, something beneath you. She had no idea what was about to happen. I stopped about 3 feet away from them, close enough that I could hear the woman's breathing, quick and shallow, like she was starting to understand that something had shifted. Close enough that Daniel had to actually look at me instead of at the ground. "Claire," he started, "let me explain." "Don't," my voice came out flat, steady, I didn't recognize it. "Don't you dare open your mouth right now." I turned to the woman. Up close, she was younger than I expected, maybe late 20s, with the kind of polished, careful beauty that takes hours in front of a mirror. Her sunglasses were pushed up into her hair now, and her eyes, when I finally saw them, held no apology in them at all. Just a kind of cold defiance, like she'd already decided she wasn't going to be embarrassed about any of this. "You hit my daughter," I said. She lifted her chin. She was screaming. She wouldn't stop screaming. She kept saying things about her father, and I told her to be quiet, and she wouldn't listen, so "You hit a 5-year-old, 10 times. I could hear Patricia behind me, still holding Lily, and I could hear the small, hiccuping sobs of my daughter slowly settling into exhausted silence, and something about that sound gave me a strength I didn't know I still had left in me. 10 times, in front of a parking lot full of parents, in front of children, in front of my husband, who apparently just watched. "She's dramatic," the woman said, waving a hand like she was swatting away a fly. "Kids exaggerate, it wasn't that hard." And that was the moment. That was the exact moment something in me that had been holding on, holding together, holding still for 8 years, finally let go. I'm not going to pretend I'm proud of what happened next. I'm also not going to pretend I regret it. I raised my hand and I slapped her, once hard enough that her head turned, hard enough that the parking lot went completely silent, hard enough that I felt the sting travel up through my own palm and into my wrist. "That," I said, my voice shaking now, finally, after everything, "is what it feels like. 10 times on a child who is not yours, who will never be yours." She stumbled back a step, pressing a hand to her cheek, staring at me with wide, furious eyes. Daniel lurched forward, grabbing my arm. "Claire, what is wrong with you?" I yanked my arm free so hard I nearly lost my balance. "What is wrong with me? What is wrong with you, Daniel? You stood there. Your daughter was being hit over and over, and you stood there like a coward and did nothing. You didn't even move." "I didn't know what to do," he said, and God, the pathetic weakness in his voice made me want to scream. "It happened so fast, You knew exactly what to do." I was crying now, I realized, tears running hot down my face, but my voice wasn't breaking. It was getting stronger with every word. "You were supposed to protect her. That's the only job that matters, Daniel. And instead you brought her here to be around this woman, around your affair, and you let her get hurt, and you didn't even step in front of your own child." Someone in the small crowd had their phone out, recording, and later, I'd learned that a version of this moment ended up online, blurred faces and all, and that thousands of strangers watched it and felt something on my behalf. But in that moment, I didn't care about any of that. I only cared about the small girl sitting on the curb, watching her parents' entire world collapse in a community center parking lot, on what was supposed to be a birthday party. I walked back to Lily. I crouched down in front of her, cupped her small face in my hands, and I looked into those brown eyes, Daniel's eyes, and I promised her, right there, that nobody would ever hurt her like that again while I had breath in my body. The weeks that followed were some of the hardest of my life. There is no clean way to end an 8-year marriage. There is no version of it that doesn't involve lawyers and silence and boxes and a 5-year-old asking why Daddy doesn't live in the house anymore. Daniel tried at first to salvage things. He showed up at my sister's house, where Lily and I were staying, with flowers I didn't accept and apologies I didn't believe. He told me it had been going on for 4 months. 4 months of lies stacked on top of lies, 4 months of a stranger existing in the spaces of our marriage, while I was busy defending him in my own mind. "I never meant for Lily to get hurt," he told me once, sitting across from me at a diner, because that's where we had to meet now, in public places, like people who used to know each other. I froze. I just froze. "You froze," I repeated. "Our daughter was crying, being hit, and you froze." He didn't have an answer for that. I don't think there is one. I found out later that Renata was fired from her job, not because of what happened in that parking lot exactly, but because the video had circulated enough that it reached someone at her company, and corporate doesn't love their employees becoming the villain in a viral story about a crying child. I won't pretend that news didn't give me a small, quiet satisfaction. I'm human. I'm not going to apologize for that. Daniel and I finalized the divorce 4 months later. I got primary custody of Lily. He gets her every other weekend, supervised for the first several months per the agreement, because no judge who watched that video was going to hand a man unrestricted access to a daughter he stood by and watched get hurt. The hardest part wasn't the paperwork, or the lawyers, or even moving into a smaller apartment on the other side of town. The hardest part was the nights Lily would wake up crying, asking me if the lady was going to come back, asking me why her daddy didn't help her. I didn't have perfect answers. I still don't. I just held her and told her the truth in pieces small enough for a 5-year-old to carry. That some grown-ups make choices that hurt people, that it was never, ever her fault, and that I would always stand between her and anyone who tried to hurt her again. It's been almost a year now. Lily is doing better. She still flinches sometimes at raised voices, still asks me every so often, out of nowhere, if I'm going to leave her somewhere. But she laughs again. She runs into kindergarten most mornings without looking back, which her therapist tells me is a good sign, a sign that she feels safe, that she trusts the ground under her feet again. As for me, I think about that day in the parking lot more than I probably should. I think about the version of myself who might have stayed quiet, who might have driven home and cried in the bathroom and forgiven him one more time. I think about how close I came to being her. But I wasn't her. Not that day. That day, I was the woman who stopped absorbing everything quietly and finally said, out loud, in front of witnesses, that some things are not survivable inside a marriage. That watching your child get hurt and doing nothing is one of them. People sometimes ask me if I regret slapping her. I tell them the truth. I don't regret protecting my daughter. I regret every single day before that one, every warning sign I explained away, every instinct I silenced because I was too afraid of what the truth would cost me. It cost me anyway. It always does. The only difference is that now I know exactly who I am when everything else falls apart. I am the woman who stands between her daughter and the world. 10 slaps taught my little girl that people can hurt you for no reason at all. One slap taught her something else, something I hope she carries with her for the rest of her life. That her mother will never, ever just stand there and watch.